Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevet, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, I'm Jason. Welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. I am excited today because we're going to interview Tania Gonzalez-Ortega, and it's going to be fabulous. Scott can't make it today, so you're just stuck with me, so we're going without a tour guide. So here we go. Tania, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks, Jason.
Well, it's wonderful to have you on here, and I'm excited to do this interview with you. So I just wanted to get off that from the start, and let's start with the questions.
Yeah. I'm
First one, the big one, you know this is coming. Who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who are I? Who am I? Well, so there's all the different roles that I have, right? There's the mother, the daughter, the artist, the teacher, the wife, the sister, all those things. But I definitely have a knowing that I am a spiritual being having a human experience for sure. And so yeah, I'm a human being here on the planet experiencing what it is to be human, and just doing my best to bring some light and love to the planet, essentially.
Nice. So let's talk about your spiritual experience a little bit. What's that like?
Oh gosh, yeah. I've had an interesting journey. I'm sure you've probably talked with many people who've had like awakenings, So when I was in my 20s, I started meditating just more out of curiosity. Like I was seeking, like my mind started asking the question, who are you? Who's thinking these thoughts? Where does this all begin? And that was kind of prompted through my art practice, because it's interesting how art can kind of take you there. You start wondering like, okay, well, what came first? Like the chicken or the egg? Like that's kind of where it started for me. And then I started to read some books by Alan Watts, and I got into, reading about different religions, and I was like, they're all talking about the same thing, they're all talking about this oneness, this experience that we're having. They're all pointing to the same place. And then I just started meditating, and I started having these really profound, peaceful moments. Like I had glimpses of what it's like to not have any mind, to not have any thoughts whatsoever. And I remember being on the beach in San Francisco as a young 20-year-old sitting there meditating. And at one point I opened my eyes and there was no thought.
You said there was just one thought?
There was no thought. There was no thought at all. The mind suddenly became completely still. And so there was just this deep peace and clarity and pure presence. And it was beyond anything I had ever experienced before. And then of course, the way the mind is, or the ego wants to grasp onto it. It's like it wants to grab onto that and make it stay. And so of course then I lost it, and I was back into being a regular person, having thoughts and thinking about the future and dwelling in the past and all of that. And then funnily enough, I ended up studying yoga, but it was the only reason was because I was living in San Francisco, and I was kind of depressed. Like I noticed, like gosh, I'm feeling kind of depressed because I was isolated. I didn't have any friends around me. Like I moved to San Francisco thinking it would be all great, but it wasn't all that great, and the shock of being in the real world and not being coddled in the university, and so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go find a counselor. I guess I'll get some counseling. I'm feeling a little depressed. And so she said to me, I guess it wasn't a big deal because she's like, yeah, I just think you need to go do some yoga. I was like, you should go find a yoga teacher or someplace where they have yoga classes. And I was like, okay, sure. So I did. And in my neighborhood, there was the Shivananda Yoga Center. And so I went and I just started taking classes. I started going, and I was the most inflexible person. Like I could not touch my toes. I was very stiff. I've never been flexible, but I decided, I was determined. I was like, okay, I'm going to be flexible. I'm going to touch my toes. I'm going to really, I don't know. Once I lock onto something, I really lock onto it. And so my body started to completely change. Like I became so flexible, like in a very short amount of time. And at that point, I decided to go into, they had a spring break retreat at their ashram in Grass Valley. And I was a teacher at the time. And so I thought, okay, I'll go check it out. And so while I was there, I was, vegetarian cuisine, waking up, doing yoga every day, doing meditation, doing the kirtan and the bhajans and all of that. And I remember and it was a beautiful place, Grass Valley is gorgeous, and was outside, and the colors and the vibrance, like everything was so vibrant and clear. Like it was like, everything was open. My eyes were just so, like everything felt really pure and really clear. Like, and it's like even the littlest details I could see. It was just this level of awakeness I'd never experienced. And so at that point I decided, man, what is this yoga stuff? I am in, like, sign me up for the teacher training. I'm going. And that's what I did. So that was spring break. That summer, I signed up for the teacher training, which was 4 weeks in Valmarin, Canada. And while I was there, and it was very intense, we were doing 4 hours of yoga every day, 4 hours of being in class teaching, listening to lectures, and living in a tent. I was in a tent with a bunch of other people. Like there was people from all over the place. Beautiful ashram. And I was given a mantra. That was part of the process. So I received my mantra. I was like, okay. And they say, all you have to do is just focus on your third eye and mentally repeat the mantra, and that's it. They call it japa, So I had my mantra and I was like, oh, great. I really wanted enlightenment. Like I really, once I started, had this taste of like, there's this peace, there's something inside of us that's like, amazing. I wanted to find it, right, and have it. And so I was very driven. And they had this they called it a peace hut. It was like a geodesic dome. And I was by myself, and I went in there and I was like, okay, I'm going to practice my mantra. And so I'm sitting there cross-legged and I'm repeating the mantra mentally over and over and over again. I'm like, I'm focused. And as I'm repeating the mantra, this light starts to come up from within. I'm seeing this light rising, and it's this golden light is going, and suddenly I'm going higher and higher and higher. And in my mind, I remember thinking to myself, this is it. I'm on my way to enlightenment. But then as I'm going higher and higher and higher, and I had that thought, this is it. This huge lion's roar just roared inside my head, in my ear. It was just this all-encompassing, imagine a lion standing right next to you just roaring at you. That's what it was like. And I just was scared out of my mind. I was totally frightened. I was I immediately oh my God, stop what you're doing. What is this? So I shut it down. And so at the time, I didn't understand what had happened. I just know that from that point afterwards, things radically changed. I started having all kinds of different symptoms, like I lost my menstrual cycle, my hair started falling out, I lost a lot of weight, I started having, you know, telepathic capacities. I started being in, when I'd go to sleep, I'd feel like I was getting electrocuted with electricity, and I'd find myself in these other realms. Like, it was very disorienting and quite frightening, actually. I would never wish it on anyone, because, you know, here I was just going from this young 20-year-old just thinking like, I just want peace and enlightenment, to like long dark night of the soul. So at the time I didn't know what was happening. It took me probably 10 years later to realize that I had had a kundalini awakening, is what had happened. And my body, sorry, my dogs are here. My body was not ready for it. And can you shut the door, Kyle? Thanks. My body wasn't ready for it. So, you know, part of the process of yoga is that, you know, a lot of it's about purification of the body first, preparing it so that when the kundalini awakening happens, you're ready. So it was like I was plugged into an electrical outlet, and I didn't have it wasn't the right connection. You know what I mean? It was like so much electricity, so much energy that my poor nervous system couldn't handle it. And I had physical impurities. It wasn't until afterwards, later down the road, after coming out of that long dark night of the soul, that I had come to find out that I had high levels of heavy metals in my blood. So I had to go through this long healing process. But it was such a profound experience. The biggest, the most profound lesson that I learned from that whole experience was, well, one, and how it resolved was, actually, I had this encounter, what I call with Christ energy, with Christ, because suddenly I went from anxiety, depression, feeling like I was losing my mind, to overnight, all of it being resolved. And it came from a deep act of surrender. I remember basically speaking to God, even though at that point in time I did not feel connected to God at all. I just said, okay, well, if there's a God, if you're hearing this, you know, there was one more person I was going to try and seek help from, because I was trying doctors, I was trying supplements, I was trying, you know, acupuncture, was doing all the things, nothing was helping. And there was one person who I met where this sort of miraculous healing happened. But before that meeting, I had said to God, I said, this is the last person I'm going to seek help from. If it doesn't work, I'm all yours. Like, I surrender. My life is yours. I might end up being a crazy lady on the street. That's it. I give up. And that's when everything radically changed, was that deep level of surrendering. And what I come to learn is that I think my experience in the ashram, the whole time I was thinking that you had to do something to become enlightened, that you had to, I don't know, earn God's grace, or you had to perform, or that was deeply ingrained in me as a child. I was very much into performing and succeeding and getting other people's approval and excelling at everything I did. And when I realized that wasn't going to work, and I had to let that go completely, like that I cannot, there's no way, I'm not going to figure this out. And so that's, that God's grace and love there's nothing that you have to do to be loved, to have that love. So that was really profound for me. So I know that's like I'm sorry, I kind of went on and on, but that was my spiritual journey. And so then after that awakening and coming out the other side and really gleaning all the spiritual gifts of going through a dark night of the soul, I did have to heal my physical body. It was still, like I said, I had the heavy metals issues, I had digestive issues. And that's when I started getting into Reiki. Was something that showed up in my world. Wasn't looking for it. It just, showed up, and that was really transformational. And then so from then on, I just was really interested in the world of energy and what one can do with it, energy and consciousness. So then finally, ultimately, that what I do now is I love family constellations work. I do still do hands-on healing work with Reiki, and Crystalline Consciousness Technique is another technique I learned over the years. And so yeah, that's the journey thus far. But of course, it keeps going.
Interesting. You said you had to do nothing, but then actually you did have to do something. That was stop.
I had to stop. I had to really let go and stop trying to resist what was happening. I had to, and I think that's probably true of depression in general. Like I think depression gets worse when you resist it. When you're really trying to, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to do everything I can to resist what I have to feel. And I've heard people say, I've heard one friend of mine say, depression's just undigested emotions. Over time, you're not digesting your emotions. So then eventually you have no choice but to, that it's like the ball's trying to come up and you keep trying to push it down. The harder you push it down, the harder it's going to push back up. And so that depression intensifies tremendously. And I think for me, I had stored so many of my emotions as a child, learning to suppress my feelings, not show my feelings out of fear of what my father or my mother might do or say, being the people pleaser. I really buried so much that I think there was no more space in my body to suppress anything more. And so, so I had to feel all of it. Yeah, and I remember my brother saying to me at one point, which was really profound, and I think this is the part that I think people, if they could learn to do this, because so much of the time we're trying to escape, right? We're trying to pursue pleasure. And when we start to feel like, oh, I'm a little sad or I'm a little upset, well, I'm going to go eat some ice cream, or I'm going to go have a drink, or I'm going to go watch some TV or whatever. We'd want to escape. And he said something to me. I remember at one point, I think I said something like, I'm afraid that the depression might come back. I remember saying that. And he said, well, what's the worst that could happen if you just be with it? Just be with it. And in that moment, it landed. I was like, oh yeah, okay. So if I'm a little sad, why can't I just be with it? And once I felt that kind of relaxation of like just being with the feeling of whatever is arising in the moment, it dissolves. There's a peace that then can open up. But most of the time we don't want to feel it, we're running away from it. So if we actually run towards it and just allow ourselves to feel whatever's arising and not judging it, not trying to push it away, then it can just move through and you move on.
Yeah, kind of like not focusing on what you don't want, but just focusing on what is.
Yes, just be with what is.
Yeah.
Right? It's like Ram Dass, be here now. That's it. That's all there is. All the answers are right here. Like really being here with whatever. Okay, you're angry. Okay, like be with that anger right here, right now, without reacting to it. Feeling the feeling. I mean, I think anger can be tricky because oftentimes when we get anger, we want to lash out at somebody, right? We want to make somebody else feel it. Because, it's this kind of energy. But if we can just like, oh wow, I'm really angry, then we can become masters of our mind and emotions rather than being whipped around by them. So
Yes. Well, it sounds like you've been through quite a few journeys here. And
yeah.
so are you grateful for the ones that you've been through, even the ones with the pain?
I know. It's a really good question. Um, yeah, I've thought about that, like, would I want it to be different? Because I remember the exact moment when I had you know how you're met with decisions, and in the moment of making that decision, you don't realize that that decision is going to change the course of your life for the rest of your life, you know? So, there have been many times where I've thought about that point and gone, what if I had said yes instead of no? Would my life be better, you know? And I don't think I would change it, really. I mean, has it been easy? Definitely not. I think when you awaken and you're that path kind of narrows down, like where it's just you, once you know the truth, you there's a certain standard or a certain like path that you're on that you can't ignore. Like once you see the truth, you can't ignore it. And so it makes it a little more challenging because there's always temptations along the way, right? Like we're tempted. And that each and every time that temptation comes, it's like, oh, I just want the easy. I just want the easy. And but I think there's definitely, if you can stay with it, I think the gift is the wisdom that you gain from it, and then what you're actually able to give is so much more. Because my sense, what I've seemed to have encountered, and I'm curious about what you think about it, but I find that the people who have gone through the most challenging of situations and come out the other side, there's a certain level of peace and an air of like love and acceptance around them that's just really nice to be in their presence, versus people who have had it easy, who've never had to struggle. It's almost like it's not quite, I don't know, there's just something I feel that's missing. Like when I'm in the presence of somebody that's gone through tremendous struggle and has come out the other side, that's the key. Coming out the other side, they're like a little Buddha, they're someone you want to be around.
So everything that you went through, you needed to go through in order to get to where you are.
Yeah,
And the blessings behind everything that you went through are well
yeah,
worth the path that you've taken, right?
yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, my path could have been really different. I mean, I feel like my life would not have the depth that it has now, in terms of like the depth of the kind of relationships that I have, the connections that I have. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you might not even have your kids or your husband or the life you had.
Oh, no, no, not at all. And and yeah, life is this, when we can like embrace that pain is part of life, it's like it's unavoidable. And I think it was a very Buddhist thing to say, right? Like suffering is just part of, I mean, pain is inevitable. We can choose to suffer or not, but pain is going to be there, and ultimately, we're all going to die anyway, right? So how, the pleasure and the pain are two sides of the same coin. So finding, that middle road of being able to hold both is where the joy of living is, the fullness of life. Yeah.
Yes, but as a mother, don't you want to keep your kids from going through such pain?
Oh my gosh, yeah, are you kidding me? It's like the worst. It's the most painful experience watching your kids go through really hard times. I tell you, I mean, your heart just like, just gets, you just don't want that for them. But, I remember, my son who's older, he's a young man now. he was going through a tough time, and I was with the teacher that I was studying from at that time, Gia Combs Ramirez. She created Crystalline Consciousness Technique. She was a psychic, intuitive, and she says, Tanya, your son is really strong. Like, he's really strong. You got to stop worrying about him. Like, our children choose to have these experiences. If they don't go through those pains and those struggles, they'll never grow. They'll never become strong. They'll never become resilient and able to face, like, let's face it, life is hard. It is not easy on this planet, right? Like, it's no joke being a human. I mean, if you're still here and you're kicking and you're getting up every day, like, you are a champion in my mind, it's not easy. And so it, as much as you want to protect your children, it's like, at the same time you realize, okay, but there's a big world out there and they need to be prepared.
So let's talk about that. What is crystal consciousness technique?
It is an energy healing modality, and the way Gia talked about it, it works with the crystalline energy system of the body. And so she taught that we're moving from out of the old paradigm into a new paradigm. And in the old paradigm, the operating system, let's say, of the body of life is very much electromagnetic, very much carbon-based. And we're now shifting into this crystalline energy system, which is very much, it's in the water of our body, the water gel that's in our tissues, in the fascia, it's like, they've recently discovered that water exists in this other state that they didn't really define before, which is this gel. And so there's light and information that we are receiving and transmitting through the water of our bodies and through the water of this planet. And so the crystalline energy system has a way of holding a tremendously more light than the electromagnetic, which kind of makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably why I got blown out by the kundalini, because I was very much in my electromagnetic energy system. She said there was a big shift in like 2012. She says we shifted into a new energy paradigm at that point. And so the crystalline energy system is able to transform and shift much more rapidly. And the reason for this big shift is because the Earth herself is going through this shift already. She's already there. She's already vibrating at a very high level. And if we're going to stay on the scene here, then we need to upgrade as well. And so, and so they're in that modality. There's, laws of vibration and whatever. We utilize healing, sacred geometry, healing chambers to bring coherence back to the body. So like the electromagnetic and the crystalline energy system are kind of in tandem with each other. And so they kind of play off each other. And so, when the electromagnetic system can get torn or damaged, right? And it can get damaged through, shock and trauma and things happening in mass consciousness and all of that. The crystalline energy system can help restore it through frequency, through vibration and intention, and and so it's a protocol that has certain steps you kind of go through. She talked a lot about the 3 phases of transformation, which is inherent in all of nature, which is opening, chaos, and mastery. So we're always kind of going through all 3 of those stages in life. So in various ways, I could be an opening when it comes to, let's say, my business, or I could be in the phase of chaos if I'm raising a toddler, or I could be, in mastery if I've, I don't know, became a famous artist, I'm mastery with that. So those three phases are always moving through. And so that's part of what's in the protocol, is moving through that. So let's say you want to work with an intention. So one of the ways that our intentions can get, how do I say, like miss the mark, is because we've got some distortions in our body. We can have an idea and be like, oh, I want to manifest this, or I want to do this. But if we've got blocks and other beliefs and programming that's not allowing that to come through, well, it doesn't come out so well. So with Crystalline Consciousness Technique, you are, you're stepping into openings, you're opening to higher levels of consciousness. You're then utilizing the healing chambers to release the distortion and bring the energy body back into coherence, right? Back to kind of a neutral state. And then you can anchor in your intention of whatever it is. I intend to, whatever, be at peace, or I choose to be loving kindness, or whatever it is. The intentions are infinite, right? And so that intention then can come in and really come all the way through all the different dimensions and come through to manifest in the third dimension. And then mastery is about sealing it all in, like sealing the deal, and then you move forward with your life, and then you just kind of watch your life transform and notice what starts to shift and change as you're working with intention. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, listen, you got a lot going on. How do our viewers get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can go to newearthconsciousness.com. You can sign up for my newsletter there. I think you can sign up for a free energy healing meditation if you subscribe. And there's all kinds of resources there. You can check out, you can check out family constellations and other things I have going on there. And then I'm on Facebook as Tania Elena, which is my middle name. I think my Facebook handle is Tanya Mama. I mean, kind of silly, but that's what I put it down as. So facebook.com/Tanya Mama. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, listen, is there anything else you want to add?
No, other than, I guess, if anybody is interested in checking out Family Constellations work, I often have host workshops where anyone can come and participate on a donation basis. If you subscribe, you'll get alerts as to when those are happening. Like I just had one recently for a woman who was struggling with inheritance. She was like in an inheritance war, and we wanted to see what's really going on. Why is this dragging on? We were able to see the truth of what really the whole experience, the lesson was for her. And then, yeah, and on there also, if you're curious about light language, this is another thing I didn't get time to talk about, but if you want to check that out, that's there. Light languages is just, for me, started showing up spontaneously in around 2012. And light languages is just another way that we humans have the capacity for healing. It's another tool. It's kind of like another way it's put is like speaking in tongues, essentially. But it's ancient, it's always been part of us, but I think it's just been suppressed. And so interestingly, it's starting to come out. I'm starting to see it more on social media, people doing light language. It's just a way of working with energy and light.
Yes, yes. And it's wonderful that you brought that up and you get to touch a little bit on that too for our viewers so they can get that on and the family constellations. If you want to touch on that for a second, that might be cool.
Yeah, Family Constellations, Bert Hellinger, highly recommend. You can just Google his name, Google Family Constellations work. It's a fascinating way of working with the knowing field. And yeah, tapping into some, talk about deep wisdom. The field truly holds all the answers and the truth of what what's actually happening. And so it's a way of basically disentangling yourself from loyalties that you've outgrown, from healing ancestral trauma. So like, a lot of people in their lineages, we've all have ancestral trauma, and sometimes it shows up in our life and we don't know where. It's maybe showing up as an illness, or it's showing up as failure in relationships, or it's showing up as being broke all the time. Sometimes that stuff it's inherited, it's passed down to us through our DNA. It's all epigenetics. And so this is a way to get to the root of that and actually, literally unburden ourselves. And I believe that it can change our DNA. It can turn things on and off in our DNA. And so, we can unburden ourselves from the trauma of the past while still remaining connected with our ancestors. That's the key. Like, I think a lot of people choose to, they don't want to, I don't know, they might reject their parents, let's say, because their parents were terrible. But if you do that, you're actually cutting yourself off from the orders of flow of love that's through your lineage. So we want to be able to still have the connection, but also let go of what it is we don't need. So so that's family constellations work. So come check it out. It's experiential. It's very experiential. There's nothing heady about it. It's really about being in the body and feeling the feelings. And it's beautiful work. I love it.
It sounds awesome. Just like you, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We've certainly enjoyed it. We definitely dig on having you on the show. And it's been great traveling down your magical psyche highway.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
The big question coming up, right? Your words of wisdom for our viewers?
Oh, words of wisdom. Yeah, I remember my words of wisdom, and I think it's potent, especially in the light of the last, decade or so of everything we've had to go through. And see, on the outside, it seems like the world's going to hell in a handbasket. That aside, I think that the question that we need to be asking ourselves and then living the answer is, even if the world is going through what it's going through and there's all these terrible things happening, who is it that you want to be in light of all of this? Even if there's even if everyone around you is filled with hopelessness and despair, who is it that you want to be then in that moment? Even if the world's going to end tomorrow, who are you going to be right now? And so I think that really brings us back home to that. I think deep down we all want to be loving human beings. So that's it. That's my words of wisdom.
Nice. Beautiful. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. For our viewers out there, we're glad that you were here. We hope you come back. We hope to see you next week. Please subscribe. Please share this. And if you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, we don't care. Just give us a thumbs down. We're just glad you're here. We hope you come back, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.